Good morning and welcome to the 23rd Beyond Borders Breakfast Debate. My name's Karen Clements, I'm Deputy CEO of Low Associates, an SME that's proud to support the work of DG REGIO and the Border Focal Point Network. Today we'll be discussing the BRIDGEforEU Regulation, a new legal toolkit designed to tackle the legal and administrative barriers that continue to bedevil cross-border cooperation. But before I hand over to Jean-Pierre Halkin to set the scene, can I remind you that this debate is being recorded and encourage you to use the chat to post your observations, your links, and any questions that we can answer in the debate and online. I will also, in time-honoured fashion, be introducing two polls that I encourage you very much to take part in. Now, I'm delighted to introduce Jean-Pierre Halkin, Head of the Unit in DG REGIO in charge of Interreg, cross-border cooperation and internal borders, who'll give us the context into which the regulation was born, how it fits with the Commission's broader vision for territorial cohesion. Jean-Pierre, thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. Good morning, everyone, from Brussels, where we have a sunny weather. I'm delighted to see the attendance to this breakfast discussion. We have a very exciting topic. So I have the privilege to be the head of the unit in charge of Interreg, cross-border cooperation, internal borders, and I will say a few words to do the scene setting. The team I have the privilege to lead is contributing to two goals. The first one is to reinforce the European Union by making sure that internal borders are strengthening the European Union by promoting cooperation and also developing relations of trust and confidence among the citizens living in border region. The second goal is to make sure that the 150 million citizens living close to a border region enjoy a life which is as satisfactory as possible. And in order to do that, with Interreg program, which has been a successful story for the last 35 years, but those programs are not enough, and they are not enough notably to remove border obstacles at the pace we want. It means that citizens living in border regions are sometimes seeing their happiness, the possibility to have a fully satisfactory life being hampered by the fact that they cannot study where they want, go to the doctor where they want, work where they want, or live in a region which economic development is stunted by the border. And this was recognized 10 years ago by the member states, and they asked the Commission to propose a regulation to accelerate the removal of border obstacles. The development of this regulation has been an epic story, and I would say an epic battle. And it has lasted 10 years, and it has requested member states, the Commission, and eventually also the Parliament, and I would like to congratulate Mr. Gozi for the definitive contribution he gave to this process in order to carry out the development of this regulation and make sure that it was adopted and it has now entered into force. So today, we are not reaching the finish line. We are just at a stage where we can shift gear and accelerate the removal of border obstacles within the European Union. And we have now a new tool in our hand that we are going to use to the maximal potential. I'm really excited now to attend the discussion, and I'm really pleased, and I would like to thank already all speakers who have been accepting to participate to this meeting. Thank you, Karen, and thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Jean-Pierre, for setting the scene so clearly. I'm now going to launch our first poll. We want to know what you think will make the regulation a success. So, Luana, could you please bring up the poll? So, the question is, what is the most important success factor for the effective use of BRIDGEforEU? Is it A, national and/or regional coordination, B, clear procedures for coordination points, C, stakeholder involvement, D, political commitment, or E, communication and awareness, and you may only choose one option. So while you're mulling those over, let's watch a short video from Alessia Setti, former Youth for Cooperation cross-border ambassador and doctoral researcher at the University of Lausanne, who will share with us her experience of living with the practical challenges of cross-border life. Luana, please can you play the video?
Hello, my name is Alessia Setti. I was born and raised in the Italian region Trentino-South Tyrol, that is right at the border with Austria. I've then also lived in two other borderlands, between the Netherlands and Belgium and between Switzerland and France. Living, studying, working in different border regions across Europe made me understand the potential of these territories as well as their challenges in terms of cross-border relations. Based on my personal experience as a resident of these areas, but also based on my PhD research on integration processes in cross-border regions, I can say that there are two groups of obstacles to cross-border cooperation. On the one hand, there are aspects that can slow down cooperation. It is the case of linguistic diversity. On the other hand, there is a group of obstacles that can fully prevent cross-border cooperation. It is the case of legal and administrative obstacles, resulting, for instance, from conflicting national laws. I'll bring you an example from my home cross-border region. Transporting a patient on an ambulance from the Italian autonomous province of South Tyrol to the Austrian land, Tyrol, may present some issues for those driving the ambulance. There are indeed different norms for driving licenses for heavy vehicles like ambulances and rescue vehicles between Italy and Austria. And yet this is an important aspect to tackle because sometimes the closest hospital may be just on the other side of the border. This example brings me to another one in the same sector that I collected during my research in the Upper Rhine region. On the French side, the medical staff on an ambulance is allowed to give patients some kind of medications that they are not allowed to give when they are in Germany. And this creates a lot of problems for the medical staff operating on the cross-border ambulance service that has been set up in this cross-border region. As a citizen, I welcome the BRIDGEforEU regulation because it will help, but most importantly incentivize national authorities to tackle cross-border obstacles, because in the end it is about the daily life of many citizens across Europe. I also welcome the coordinative tasks that this regulation assigns to the European Commission, because many cross-border regions in Europe face very similar challenges. So I think it is important to have exchanges on best practices or experiences in general among coordination points. This will help tackling cross-border obstacles even quicker and smoother. I'm looking forward to your discussion. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to Alessia for sharing with us some of the challenges of day-to-day life in a cross-border region. And congratulations on her successful defence of her PhD on cross-border governance 2 weeks ago. The results of the first poll are in, and they are as follows. Luana, could you bring up the results, please? So we have a clear winner, if we can call it that. Political commitment at 37% clearly is the biggest success factor for the audience here today, followed by national and/or regional coordination at 30%, clear procedures for coordination at 14%, stakeholder involvement at 13%, and communication and awareness at 4%. Now, to open the panel, I am delighted to introduce Ricardo Ferreira, Planning and Programming Officer at the Border Focal Point, DG REGIO. Ricardo, you said to me earlier that you believe this regulation represents a step change in cross-border cooperation. Can you tell us a bit more about why and how? Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, everyone. I'll try to very briefly present what the regulation actually is and why it is a step of which we should collectively be so proud, because the adoption of the regulation marks the engagement of so many in so many different institutions at so many different levels for such a long period. And it is indeed a significant step forward, because for the first time we have a procedure to allow stakeholders in both regions to trigger the process, to find solutions, to make those solutions, to raise awareness of the obstacles, and to trigger the process to find solutions. In the past, we have discussed cross-border obstacles in many contexts, and we have seen in the past that frequently it was the case that two neighboring municipalities would have a joint challenge facing an obstacle. They had the political commitment to engage in a solution, but they lacked the legal competence to implement the solution. And there was the need for a legal process to trigger this procedure to allow pushing for a solution to be implemented by the competent authorities. But sometimes we also see some confusion about the different tools. Can you click, please? We see some confusion about the tools, and it's important to make here a small image of what the tools are and how they interrelate. Because when we started talking about the regulation, many people told us, "Don't you have EGTCs already?" It's totally not the same. We have three different tools, and people should be aware of their relation. The first of them, click please, is Interreg. Click. Interreg is the funding instrument for cross-border cooperation. It triggers cooperation. It triggers cooperation projects. It brings people together. Then we have the second element. Click, please. Which is the EGTC. EGTC allows to create legal personalities to find the proper governance structure for those projects or interactions, different types of interactions. It's a tool for allowing for the governance of some type of interaction. And then finally, on the top of the rocket, the last tool that we have developed recently is BRIDGEforEU. Another click, please. The regulation BRIDGEforEU that we are discussing today is not a way to promote the governance of a project or a interaction. It is a way, a procedure to find legal solutions for legal obstacles. And this is something that we so frequently miss, and we really don't know about what it is. Having made the difference, it's important to have now the look on how would it work. Can you click twice, please? So one more. So how does it work? I start by saying it's important at this stage that we would all have a look at the text of the regulation itself to better understand it. What I try to do here is just a simplification, a schematic simplification of how it works. The central point of the regulation, and this is something that should be understood by all stakeholders at the different levels, will be these cross-border coordination points. The cross-border coordination points will be the entities representing the member state in the coordination of the solution for legal obstacles. So the first step, and this is what we hope to see in the next month happening, the first step is for member states to establish cross-border coordination points. This will be the point that stakeholders in border regions were missing frequently in this situation that I've illustrated in the previous example, when there was the local political commitment to solve a border obstacle, there was not a clear place where to address it, where should I go to solve this border obstacle? And these cross-border coordination points will have this central role. These points will be associated to a territory. Each point will be covering a given territory. This is to be set by the member state. And here there is freedom for the member states to decide where and how to create those points. They can create one single point for the entire country. They can create several points for different parts of the border. They can create joint coordination points with their neighboring member states. They can create points covering parts of their borders, but not all of their borders. Here, under the principle of subsidiarity, member states have the total capacity to decide how to create those points. Once these points are created, we get to the second step. Click, please. And the second step is the initiators. The word initiators in the regulation represents the entities that fill the obstacle. So these are private or public entities. We can see these as the cross-border stakeholders. The municipality that is trying to launch a cross-border public service and does not find a solution for the technical standards. The NGO, the university, the Chamber of Commerce, the EGTC that sees some type of interaction prevented because of a legal obstacle. Sometimes these legal obstacles may be perceived legal obstacles, but not de facto legal obstacles. We need to understand for each of those cases, we need to make an assessment to identify the legal obstacle. And regulation points the legal obstacle as being the specific norm in a legal framework that is impeding some type of interaction. So when an initiator has a perceived obstacle, it sends the file, it creates a file on this legal obstacle and it sends it to a point. Click, please. This point, this file, this word file in the regulation is what we usually call a obstacle. A obstacle is sent to the coordination point and then the coordination point has to connect with the competent authorities. Click, please. The competent authorities will be different on a case-by-case scenario. If the legal obstacle is on transportation, the competent authority may be the regional transport administration. If the legal obstacle is on education, it may be the Ministry of Education. So the competent authorities vary on a case-by-case scenario. Articulating with the competent authorities, the cross-border coordination point will need to do an assessment. Click, please. Assessment of the obstacle, assessment of the file. And here, what is done is there de facto an obstacle, or is there a perception of an obstacle? Is the obstacle of a legal nature, or is the obstacle of a different nature? And if the file is assessed to be de facto a legal obstacle, then it goes back to the competent authority, which will have the capacity to trigger a potential legal solution. Click, please. So the obstacle goes to an eventual solution. It's important to state that at certain moments there was some concern by some member states on the European level is imposing changes in legislative procedures at national level. This is not the case, precisely because this creates the procedure, but the regulation does not oblige the national level to adopt a solution. It allows for the mechanism, if there is political will, to create that solution. That is why it is an eventual solution. Member state, under the framework of their national competencies and their constitutional procedures, would possibly start with a legislative process. There are two other elements here, click, which is the reporting back to the initiator, the need for the cross-border coordination point to, in different moments of the process, to report back to the initiators, to make a state of play, to indicate if what was the assessment of the obstacle, what were the following up steps taken. This is important because this will allow to overcome the situation in which stakeholders in cross-border regions were feeling an obstacle and were saying, we are not recognized, no one gives us information, we never know if something is happening or not. And there's a second element, click please. There's a second element, which is the reporting. This reporting to the European Commission from the cross-border coordination points on behalf also of the competent authorities. This reporting will allow the networking and coordination that was commented by Alessia just before. This will allow one of the most important things in the construction of the European Union, which is the joint, the coordination, the finding solutions together, the sharing of experiences, which is what has made us so much stronger. Basically, this is what the regulation entails. This is oversimplistic in such a short timing. I would recommend everyone to take a deep look at the regulation. Certainly, we stay here available for any further explanations. Can you click, please? One further detail on the assessment. I would recommend, namely, to take a look at Article 9, which describes the assessment steps. What happens to each and every file, each and every obstacle, if you want. The cross-border coordination point has to assess whether the file is adequately documented. If it's not, it reports back. When it is adequately documented, it assesses the existence of the alleged obstacle. If there is no obstacle, it reports back. If there is the alleged obstacle, and here the detail is the obstacle is the legal norm impeding something. Therefore, in this assessment process, we have to identify not only to say that the law does not allow my ambulances to cross, we have to identify the law does not allow my ambulances to cross because on Royal Decree XYZ, Article XYZ, it says this, this, and this. When we have this assessment, it can be shared to another member state because it may be the case that the legal obstacle is a norm on the legal framework of my neighboring member state. In such case, there may be a coordination between the different member states. When there is when one of the coordination points would be addressing the process, then they can say that they can push for using the facilitation tool or create an ad hoc mechanism. One more click, please. Just my final remarks on the next steps. It's very important to emphasize this element because in many border regions, we see the stakeholders eager to understand how this will start. What will be the next steps? I've been getting this question from different geographies in different contexts. What will happen now? What will happen now? For the Commission, we need to wait. For the member states, they need to act. It is now the moment for the member states, for each country to decide where and how to create the cross-border coordination points. This is the moment for regional stakeholders, local stakeholders, border stakeholders to coordinate with the national level to get the best solution under each country's legal framework, under each country's administrative context, to find the best solution to create those points. Only when those points will create it will the regulation have an impact, because the regulation creates the mechanism and the mechanism is based on those points. In order to support this, we have to acknowledge the important project promoted by the European Parliament by Sandro Gozi here that allows for the providing financial support for the creation of coordination points. This will be a competitive process on which we will announce details when they become public. We are putting information on the Border Focal Point Network. The latest information is the one on this on the post on this link. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Ricardo. Now, I'm delighted to welcome back to our breakfast debates the man who successfully steered the regulation through the European Parliament, Sandro Gozi, MEP. Sandro, we're most grateful to you for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for the excellent seminar and the excellent work. I think that it is absolutely important for us and for me. Was a very important battle, difficult one, that we have won. We have won thanks to the good cooperation with the Commission, and the good cooperation with the Belgian and Hungarian presidency, the support of the Committee of the Regions. There was really a movement that wanted to overcome the deadlock. I recall that this file had been was blocked in the Council for a long time. And when I was appointed rapporteur in 2020, there was a lot of skepticism. I mean, people were asking me, why do I accept to be rapporteur on a dead file? So, I mean, I accept the challenge. I think that I was right, but not because I did it on my own, but because we did an excellent teamwork, as always we have to do on European issues. The message that I would like to convey in this first round is that there was a strong support in the European Parliament to relaunch the file, and a strong support also all along the process. I mean, I always got all the political groups, which is in this term never happens, but really all the political groups, with the exception of some delegation, some members, not even some national delegation, they were all behind me to get it right and to go straight to the result. We have relaunched the process with the initiative legislative resolution. I mean, we have used, for those who are accustomed with our procedure in Europe, we have used Article 225, when we had never used this article, which gives the possibility to the Parliament to launch a legislative initiative, I mean, to ask to launch a legislative initiative during negotiation. The negotiations were already going on, but we did so because we wanted to take into account also the reservations and the worries and the criticism that had been raised on this file in the Council. Some of those were not founded. Some other needed better institutional and legal explanation, and we have done so. We have done so hand in hand with the Commission, and I think that looking to your poll, where it was asked what are the main factors, I saw the polls. I agree. Political commitment. This regulation is the fruit, is the product of a strong political commitment of the European Parliament, and it requires a strong political commitment now at national level in the implementation. It certainly will improve coordination and exchange of good practices. The Commission has already an excellent work with the B-solution document, and I think that the fact that there is this reporting mechanism to the Commission will help also the Commission to disseminate the good practices in solving the problems. And after all, what is BRIDGE4EU? It is a solution machine. It is a machine to provide solutions that can help the work of the European grouping of territorial cooperation, and can also help to better use the Interreg funds for cross-border cooperation. That is, and also it helps a better implementation for those regional or bilateral agreements between member states that focus on cross-border regional cooperation. I think of the Nordic Council, but also, for example, of the three treaty that exists between Germany and France, Italy and France, France and Spain. I mean, there are many, the Benelux cooperation. I mean, it's really an instrument which is at the service also of existing form of regional cooperation. My last message in this first round is that, of course, now we have, it is voluntary, but we have to be very active in accompanying the member state which opt to avail themselves of this instrument, to do it in the right way. and to fully exploit the potential of Bridge4EU, because Bridge4EU has a strong potential. It will depend on how far the member state will go in the implementation. It is something that also helps a better functioning of the single market. It's not by accident that this proposal is mentioned also in the Enrico Letta report on the single market, because certainly it's an instrument that was very much needed to allow a better functioning of the single market. And also this was recalled by Ricardo Ferreira. We have also helped the member state which were worried about the possible cost of setting up the coordination point. We have helped them with this pilot project and this 4 million euro, which is in the budget at the services of the member state which opt for the creation of coordination points. So we don't take away money from the Interreg program. On the contrary, we provide a new tool to make the use of the Interreg program more effective. So once again, thank you very much. I want again thank the Commission for the excellent work, and also the Council for the trust that, after all, they put on our initiative as European Parliament.
Many thanks, Sandro. We're very grateful to you for your championing of this toolkit. Next, I'm delighted to introduce Jean-Pierre, Director General of MOT. Jean, I believe that for your organisation, this regulation is a cause for celebration. Can you tell us a little bit more about what it means for your organisation? What practical and political conditions are needed for its operational uptake? Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. First, I'm very happy to be there today to celebrate this new regulation. MOT has be part of the battle from the early beginning with the Luxembourg presidency in 2015, and then with the cross-border review launched by the Commission. So it was a great battle. It is first part is won, but we have now a new battle, which is to implement this regulation. Starting from your question, I would say that what we do in MOT is working for local and regional authorities, building concrete projects for their citizens in their cross-border territory. And there is no specific topic or no specific category of obstacle which is important. It's a system, by the way, because basically we could say that member states still are a little bit back-to-back on each border, because, of course, there are many successes so far with cooperation projects, with Interreg and so on. But when you progress in the integration of these cross-border territories, the more you progress in integration, the more you progress in discovering obstacles. I was very interested by what Alessia told earlier. She took this example of hospital. I mean, this example is always the same, but it's very interesting to understand. If you take the Sardinia hospital on the border between Spain and France, basically the walls of the hospital were built thanks to Interreg. The status to make it work as an institution is EGTC. So again, this tool at the EU level, and as Ricardo explained, what was missing was a tool to solve the obstacles. And as Sandro said, he said that the regulation was a solution machine. I could tell the same with the hospital or with any cross-border public service. I mean, you create and you launch the service and it starts to work, and then we discover hospitals like the problem of ambulances having to cross the border, like the status of the French doctors having to work in an hospital which is based in Spain, and so on and so on. And the point is, each of these obstacles has to be solved. Very often, in most cases, in fields like health, it's up to the member states because they have the competence. And there starts a battle that is possible to win each time, but it takes time, and you have to face not only, I would say, legal or administrative difficulties, but you you can always find a solution, in fact. But the point is the inertia of the system. I mean, it takes too much time. And this is where the regulation is a major input, because it creates a process. It has been explained. You will have now these coordination points that will be available and that will be seeable by the local stakeholders, by the initiators, and these coordination points will have to work together. And I've always thought that the most important thing in this idea of a regulation is this network of coordination points. It was very clear from 2015, I would say, but well, the story was long. But what is very, very interesting is that it respects and takes into consideration the differences between our countries. Some EU member states are small countries, and in that case, it's very clear that they will have probably a unique national coordination point in the capital. Some countries like France are larger, I would say, with many borders. And in that case, I cannot say in the name of French government what will be decided, but probably there will be a link with the arrangements that already exist on each border. For instance, typically the French-German border, you have a Treaty of Aachen, you have a committee, you have a secretariat of the committee. I guess it will have a role in this mutual French-German coordination. And so the point is, as has been said, the point now is that every country chooses its network of coordination points, and things will have to happen on each border. Things will have to happen in the capitals, because in a country like France, I mean, the ministries and the parliament is in Paris. So things are, solutions in policies or regulations have to be also found in Paris or in Berlin. Even in a federal state, the tramway between Strasbourg and Kiel faced a difficulty, because in Germany, the regulation of tramway is in Berlin. And so we found a solution, but basically the regulation will be accelerating that. And on top of that, I mean, it's very important to have EU coordination of all that. Thanks, Ricardo, to be there. I mean, because the role of the coordination point at the EU level, at least two things, I think. The first is trying to combine all these obstacles and solutions that will be found and create this European database that can be useful for one border to take ideas on other borders, and also to create this accountability towards the initiators. And the second aspect is sometimes the solution could be EU. I mean, in some cases, in some sectoral regulations at the EU level, the solution can be found also in Brussels or Strasbourg. And so what is fascinating with this regulation is that it creates a sort of unity in diversity to solve obstacles and to contribute to European integration. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jean. Before I introduce our fourth and final speaker, let's go to the second poll. This is an open format poll, which means that you have to supply the answers rather than just choose from a multiple choice. So Luana, would you be kind enough to bring up the question? So the question is, what kind of support is most needed to ensure the successful implementation of the Bridge4EU regulation? So while you mull that over, I'd like to introduce, last but by no means least, Arola Urdangarin, who's director of the Euro region Nouvelle-Aquitaine, Euskadi, Navarra. Arola, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I think I had the presentation. I don't know, Luana, if you can put it, please. Yes, so next slide, please. So thank you very much. I'm Arola Urdangarin, director of the GTC Euro region Nouvelle-Aquitaine, Euskadi, Navarra, so the French-Spanish border. Next slide, please. So we are an EGTC formed in 2011, as with the legal format of European Grouping of Territorial Cooperation, so EGTC. Just 2 more slides, please. And just so you can see our territory. So we are another slide, please. We are a territory of more than 100,000 square kilometers, and we have a variety of languages and traditions that we have together, and that we work together to promote and boost the economic, societal, and cultural development of our Euro region. So one of our goals mostly serve as driver for resolution of cross-border challenges derived from the different legislative frameworks, as we know, administrative organization, etc. We are on a border in which we have 2 member states that are completely different in the political and administrative situation. So we have a very centralized state, which is the state of France, and a very decentralized state, which is the state of Spain. And 2 of our member regions, so Euskadi and Navarra, have really nearly the whole competences in the legal and administrative network. So next slide, please. So what we have been doing the last couple of years, mostly from the implementation of our 2021-2027 strategic plan, this plan set out really the need to develop a tool to identify and describe cross-border challenges or obstacles, so that then specific project or specific response could be conceived to resolve them. So next slide, please. So in this, what we did in 2021 was to really build a live inventory of the cross-border challenges that we had in the river region, mostly classify them and really classify them the different issues that affect the daily life of the citizens, companies, etc. And we also developed a work methodology, so a methodology or a working framework to ensure really the correct execution and implementation of the mechanism needed, or to really deal with the needs presented by each of the cross-border challenges. So next slide, please. So we in 2021, what we did, we implemented this methodology for resolving cross-border challenges in our Euro region with 6 different phases that really clearly focused on the implementation of the methodology. So with the first phase, identifying the obstacle, a second phase, prioritizing and really defining the prioritization of each obstacle. A third phase, preparing and organizing working groups for each obstacle, really requesting information and really specifying the scope that we wanted to have in resolving that obstacle. A fourth phase, which was really the phase of resolving the obstacle. So really seeing, as Ricardo said, who is the competent authority in resolving that obstacle, and really implementing that resolution of the obstacle. Fifth phase, which is the monitoring phase, so really to define a mechanism to monitor and evaluate the challenges and really implement the implementation of this monitoring. And the sixth phase, closing this cross-border obstacle resolution with all the final documentation, etc., etc. So for us, since we implemented this methodology for overcoming the obstacles, we have been able to address them in various ways. So through dedicated working groups, for example, by commissioning also legal reports from specialized jurists to solve the legal obstacle, and so on. But however, until now, we did not have a European regulation that supported this work. So for us, the arrival of the BRIDGEforEU regulation provides us, as it has been said today, that regulatory backing at the EU level. It places the resolution of cross-border obstacles really at the heart of the debate. This is really interesting for us as CGTCs. So we know that we don't know, and as Ricardo said also, we do not expect this regulation to be a magic wand or a magic tool that will solve all the challenges or all the obstacles that we face on a daily basis, but it will allow us to work within a legal framework, a European framework that has been approved by all political and administrative levels, and it really introduces this European regulation that must be implemented by all of us. So in this case, and we have seen it also in the first pool, we believe that the cooperation with the member states is essential to overcome these obstacles related to national legislation. And this BRIDGEforEU regulation allows us EGTCs and provides us the framework to promote and strengthen that relationship between the state level and cross-border cooperation entities such as the region or such as EGTCs, which in our opinion could or should act as a cross-border coordination point at regional or border level. So this is quite interesting too. This creation, as Jean-Pierre said too, this creation of the network of CBC contact points. We believe that EGTC should be identified, as the regulation says, as contact and coordination points within the framework of the BRIDGEforEU regulation, to allow us to continue the work that we have been doing for the last couple of years, acting as facilitators of the detection, analyze, resolution of cross-border obstacles, and really in cooperation with the relevant national authorities and with the very important institutional support from the European Commission and the European institutions. So from our part, from the Nouvelle Aquitaine Euskadi Navarra Euro region, we really remain at your disposal for any implementation, any pilot project or other initiative that you may wish to carry out. And because in doing so, we aim to build on and capitalize all the work that we have been undertaking in the recent years, and mostly solving these challenges that we face in the cross-border area in the daily basis. So thank you very much. That's what we wanted to say. Also, see that we have a list of cross-border obstacles in our border that we could share with you if you are interested in. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Adola. Right, let's have a very quick look at the word cloud. Luana, could you put that on the screen, please, to see what kind of support is most needed at this stage? And I think that it's clear that financial support is extremely popular in this word cloud. Here we go. Yes, financial support, closely followed by national support, national political support, member states, national authorities, national governments, etc. So I'd like to, in fact, take a first question from the chat on relating to financial support. And this is, we would appreciate some clarification regarding the financing of the implementation of the regulation. What sources are foreseen? Is it only the mentioned pilot project, or other EU funds are possible also? Will the pilot project provide only technical assistance from the EC experts, or will direct funding be given? Ricardo, would you like to answer that?
Yes, I think that question is for myself. Within the caveats of the information that can be shared before a competitive process is launched, there are two lines. One thing is the financing the pilot project from the European Parliament, which is providing funding for the setup of cross-border coordination points. We must understand that if you start multiplying the number of cross-border coordination points that could be expected to be created in the next months or 2 years, the amount per each one is relatively small, which implies that it should be very clear at this stage this would be seed money to support the implementation of coordination points. But too frequently, then there are different funding mechanisms. There is Interreg projects. We have either one in Interreg, which can be applied, certainly. We are seeing different experiences with similar structures in different places that are taking place. Things that projects that are already being set up that could eventually become coordination points, which have significant amounts of money allocated to them. But I also have to add one theoretical perspective. So the direct answer is the pilot project is seed money for setting up of some points that will be used in a competitive manner. The second funding scheme is Interreg, can be used, certainly. The third funding scheme is clearly national budget, can be used as well. Let's not forget that the EU budget is 1% of the Commission, but the Union budget is 1% of GDP, while the public budgets are 40% of GDP at national level. But there is also one element that we should not forget. We keep on saying, if we solve 20% of obstacles, we will generate 2% of GDP gain. This 2% of GDP gain, in part, is by savings. If we are creating a solving obstacles for shared public services between two neighboring municipalities, this is generating savings. And these savings will be more than the cost of the point. So therefore, we should always look at implementing projects on a sustainable manner that generate also funding from the economic gains that derive from it. The points should not be seen, this is my background reasoning, the points should not be seen as a cost. Therefore, the Commission is posing on us the burden of having to create a cost. The points should be seen as an opportunity to generate economic gain for society, and therefore it's not a cost. It changes completely the mindset. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have another question from viewers in Norway, Switzerland and Northern Ireland. Has there been any exploration or discussions for coordination points between member states and third countries? Who would like to take that? Thank you.
Gozi.
Can I take it? Yeah,
please,
no,
please.
It is a very important question, and we have negotiated a lot, because at the beginning this possibility was not foreseen. And during the negotiation, we managed to foresee the possibility to encourage the member state to use the same mechanism as of BRIDGE4EU, also in their cooperation with third countries. It is clear that we have done so, especially thinking to Switzerland, to United Kingdom, to Norway, but also, for example, to cooperation between our outmost regions, the peripheral regions. I mean, think of La Réunion, Martinique, Azores, Canary. I mean, and the cooperation in the Caribbean island, in the Caribbean Sea, or in the Indian Ocean. So, I mean, it is absolutely possible. We couldn't impose it. We couldn't only foresee it as a possibility. But it is clear that the more we use this instrument within the European Union, and we prove its effectiveness, the more the member state will be also encouraged to use it outside the Union in the cooperation with bordering countries or regions which are of particular interest. And certainly United Kingdom, Norway and Switzerland have already a special relationship with us. And I think that BRIDGE4EU can help to enhance this relationship.
Thank you so much. I'm afraid we're running out of time. So before we go, I would just like to hand over to Jean-Pierre Halkin so that he could leave us with some final thoughts. Jean-Pierre.
Yes, so thank you very much, Karen. I think it's time for me to say, first of all, word of thanks to all the panelists and all participants. for your participation to this breakfast. It was a very exciting moment for all of us. The second thing that we draw as a conclusion from this discussion today is that there is a lot of interest to see how we can use this new tool in our toolbox in order to move forward and make the life of people easier, but also to make the best use of the resources we have in the EU. And I think that some examples of how we can remove obstacles to do saving is also something very important. At the end, we want people to stay in a border region. We have in mind the LETA report that speaks about the right to stay. Whenever you are in a region facing economic decline where you don't have exciting jobs or what we call tomorrow's job, it's clearly not really the climate that will invite you to stay in the region you are in. So that's something that we also take on board. I would like to express again my gratitude, first of all, to the whole organizing team, the colleagues of law. I'm very pleased to have you, Karen, in front of me, but also the participant, Jean, Ahola, Mr. Gozi, with whom this regulation will maybe not be adopted today, and also my own colleagues who have been working on that, my predecessors, and I will say just a word for two persons in my team, Ricardo and Diego, but also I must say that we have been tremendously assisted by the policy unit of DG REGIO, who are experts in the negotiation and have circumvented the roadblock in front of us because there were obstacles to the adoption of this regulation. So thank you all for the participation. Sorry, I realized that I forgot to thank also Jean-Pierre, who has been an ardent promoter of the cooperation across border for the borders around France, but also everywhere in the EU, because at the end, we are not going to solve border obstacles only around one member state. It is a comprehensive issue that has to be taken at the EU level. So thank you all. Count on us to continue pushing to help removing border obstacles. We know it will be a long, lengthy, frustrating process for some, but I'm convinced that it will be snowballing, that once we will have success on some borders, it will inspire others that it is an important and useful tool. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre. As you said, there's a lot of interest. The debate need not stop here. Please do continue to take part in the debate, to connect, to stay informed on the Border Focal Point Network community on Futurium, and you can find the link to that in the chat. I'm also, before we go, delighted to announce that applications open today for the 3rd edition of the Cross-Border Ambassadors Initiative, which has been hugely successful to date. So if you are between 18 and 30 and you are passionate about cross-border cooperation, please apply today and join our community on Futurium. You have until the 31st of August to join. All the relevant links, as I said, are on the chat. And may I also thank all our speakers, Jean-Pierre, Sandro, Ricardo, Jean, Arola and Alessia for their time. And hopefully we'll see many, many more of you again at our next Beyond Borders breakfast debate after the summer. So thank you all so much for joining us and have a great Thursday.